Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is a pretty awesome episode. We get into some huge hands right from the get-go. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started. Before poker begins, I have a pre-game meal consisting of a giant Firehouse sub and a giant soda to match it with my buddy Jake. You may remember him from prior episodes. I used to call him Big Cat, but with the success of Tiger King, I now call him Big Cat Rescue. Feel free to do the same if you ever see him in a casino. He's a friendly guy. After lunch, we head to Bellagio. It ends up being the longest drive that I've ever taken because, no joke, this is the kind of music that Jake listens to. I like soft Christian jams as much as the next guy, but come on dude, I'm trying to get pumped up to play here. We finally arrive at the poker room. I'm going to be hopping in the 5-10. Big Cat Rescue will be playing the 10-20 game. I buy in for $1,500, we're ready to go. 10 minutes into the session, I'm dealt pocket queens in the small blind. Under the gun limps in. Under the gun +1 looks a little bit like a young Howie Mandel. He raises to 40. Interesting situation. One or both players could have strong hands, but 40 is still an unacceptable price. No deal, Howie. I 3-bet to 150. I hope this under the gun limper isn't trapping with aces. He's not. He folds. Under the gun +1 isn't giving up that easily. He calls. We're heads up, out of position in a big pot. The flop comes 10-8-5 with 2 diamonds. Not bad at all. A lot of the time you see me down bet over pairs after 3-betting. That's not going to happen here. I don't want to see any cards higher than mine or diamonds on future streets. I bet 180. Taking this pot down immediately wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Under the gun +1 has other ideas. He has me covered and rips it all in for $12.80 effective. This has gotten out of hand quickly. Either he has a set, a flush draw, or something like jacks he's not sure what to do with. I don't think he'd necessarily jam for that much with a set because if I ever lay down an overpair, it'd be a disaster for him. Feels more like he has some equity but wants me to fold. Generally, you should be doing the opposite of what your opponents want you to do. I'm not in the quitting mood anyway. I call rather quickly. I really don't know if I'm ahead or behind, but I know I don't want any more diamonds, aces, kings, or even jacks. The turn is the deuce of clubs. I'm good with that one. The river is another 10. It's a bit scary. The player quickly tables ace-3 of diamonds. Our read was correct. He didn't have us beat. We got it in as a tiny favorite. The turn gave the opponent a straight draw as well, but he bricked everything. It's safe to reveal my cards. I've got the winner. Right away, a massive pot of nearly 3,000 is pushed our way. On the outside, I'm trying not to show my excitement. On the inside, I'm like, hallelujah, the deck didn't screw us this time. A few minutes later, we have ace-queen offsuit on the button. The hijack opens at 30. The cutoff calls. Generally, I'd 3-bet. I'm not able to get the camera out in time to capture a 3-bet without holding up the game, drawing a lot of attention to myself, so there's no point in doing it anymore. I flat, which is also reasonable. The big blind calls. 4 of us are in the mix. It comes ace-10-8 with 2 diamonds. We have top pair and a good kicker. Checks to me. With smaller aces, I might check back. In this instance, I'm comfortable betting. I make it 70. The big blind folds. The action's back on the initial preflop raiser in the hijack. I don't anticipate him having much of a hand. Apparently he does have one because he puts in the old check raise to 190. This makes no sense to me. If he had 2 pair or better, why wouldn't he bet on an ace-high flop with lots of draws out there? If he was strong and bet, he'd very likely get some colors. There's no real reason for him to think that either the cutoff or I would bet after him, so his line isn't quite adding up. The cutoff folds. I'm not exactly sure what's going on right now, but my hand is under-repped. I call for 120 more. Heads up, the turn is the 5 of spades. It shouldn't have changed anything. The hijack slows down and checks. Okay, I'm fine with the pot size in relation to my hand strength at the moment. I check back. The final card is the jack of hearts. I don't love it because king-queen is the holding that the hijack might have check raised me with, and that's good for a straight. He thinks about firing. Instead, he checks. I check back. The opponent has king-jack of clubs. Probably didn't want to bet a gutter and a backdoor flush draw into 3 opponents on the flop, but once the cutoff checks and the big blind folds, he only has to worry about me being strong, and I could have potentially been taking a stab at it light, plus he's going to have equity no matter what. I kind of like that thought process, but it still isn't great because I'm very rarely going to be betting light into multiple opponents on that board, and my range can consist of plenty of big hands that'll connect well. His raise ends up working out for us. I've only been playing 30 minutes, and I'm already up over 1,600. Oh man, I am getting sleepy. Oh my God, look at the time. I just remembered I have a flight to catch. I really don't want to leave, but I have to get out of here immediately. No. We're not actually going to hit and run, but studies have shown winning big makes it at least 10 times more likely that you're going to have some imminent obligation that you have to tend to. That's the only reason I try not to do it very often. The only reason. I get moved to the main game where I've got pocket 50s on the... No, that doesn't... That doesn't work. I've got pocket fives on the button. I raised to 30. Small blind calls. He's a vlog watcher named Dan from Boston. The big blind defends. I have no information on what he watches on YouTube. 3 of us are seeing the flop. It's 8-7-4 with 2 diamonds. We've got third pair, a gutter, and a backdoor flush draw. Small blind and big blind check. I could go either way on what to do. It's just such a connected board that could easily hit my opponents. I have some showdown value, and I'm not stuck piles, so I check back. The turn is the 3 of hearts. Small blind says out loud, "Yo guys, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but I have an incredibly strong hand right now." He bets 50. The big blind folds. I turn to the small blind, and this is how I talk at the table. I say, "Dog, I just don't believe you have the sweet goods because I have 2 5s. I'm gonna call you because I think you're bluffing, and even if you're not, I probably have some equity." I call the 50. We're heads up. The river is the 8 of hearts. It's not great because the heart draw gets there. Small blind checks. I'm not bluffing at this. I check back. The small blind was indeed bluffing on the turn. He rolls over king, queen of diamonds. The wrong flush draw got there for him. We have the winner with our small pocket pair. What a day for us. Everything's working out great. Next we have ace king offsuit in the cutoff. It's a terrific hand worth raising with. I make it 30. Dan calls on the button. The big blind calls as well. 3 of us are going to the flop. The dealer puts out ace 10-7 rainbow. We have top. The big blind checks. I bet 50 for value. The button and big blind both call. It's hard for us all to have aces. The turn is the king of hearts. We make top 2 pair, but queen jack makes it straight. The big blind checks. My hand is too strong to check.
I'm too strong! Too strong! I want a victory!
I put 140 out there. That's a bit too much for the button. He folds. The price seems fair for the big blind. He calls. We're heads up. The river is the 10 of diamonds. It's not particularly great. The big blind checks. Thinking back, I'm not sure what 10 my opponent will really have. I bet flop and the button called, so it'd be very ambitious for the big blind to overcall with a single 10 and think it was good. I suppose that he could have a 10 with a backdoor flush and straight possibility, like jack 10 or 10-9 of spades for instance, but a lot of those hands would give up on the turn. It's more likely I'm up against a worse ace whose kicker won't play. You might remember in the last hand of the previous vlog, I overbet pot on the river because I thought my opponent had the same hand as me and wanted to get him off a chop. Here I bet 400 with the reverse mindset. I want my opponent to think that I'm trying to get him off a chop, that we both have aces with kickers that won't play, since the board is paired and there's a king out there. Something unexpected happens. The big blind raises to 950. It's gutsy because I can have 10s, aces, kings, 7s, ace 10, queen jack, and ace king all in my range the way I've played this so far. The opponent can't have a ton of those hands in his range because he would have 3-bet pre-flop or likely would have raised me at some other point. The problem is that people just always have it when they raise on the river. Oh man, what kind of canned sardines did I open here? I guess it doesn't matter. The brand isn't important at a time like this. I'm confused. Is there some chance that my opponent doesn't have it? Could he be interpreting my bet how I wanted him to, which was for him to believe that we're chopping, and now he's raising, thinking that I'll have to fold a hand he'd be chopping with? I don't know. There's too much going on. I close my eyes and call, pretty much expecting to lose. The opponent rolls over king 10 offsuit. His ambitious call with second pair and a backdoor straight draw almost gets him in lots of trouble because he was drawing nearly dead on the turn, but then gets bailed out by drilling a 2-outer on the river against the right player who just can't fold. That one's devastating. I'm mad at myself for calling the raise. My profit for the day is almost completely wiped out. I knew I should have left on that flight that I didn't have earlier. Oh well. I've got 9-8 suited on the button. Onto the gun limps in. Usually I raise with this hand from late position when a single player limps in front of me. Onto the gun limps I treat a little differently. I limp as well. The small blind calls. The big blind checks. We go 4 ways to the flop. It's jack 10-9 with 2 clubs. We have bottom pair, but more importantly, we have an open-ended straight flush draw. Checks to me. I'm going for it. I bet 30. Small blind calls. The big blind folds. Onto the gun calls. 3 of us are going to the turn. The dealer puts out the 5 of diamonds. That's not fun. Checks to me. I'm not shutting down. I bet 100. Even if I get raised, I can still call. I don't have to be concerned about that though. The small blind flats. Onto the gun folds. It's been whittled down to heads up play. The river is the king of clubs. We make the flush. Small blind must have liked that card too because he bets 220. I hope I'm not up against a bigger flush. I call, and of course, we're up against a flush. But it's a smaller one. We were good the whole time. The opponent has 7-5 of clubs. It's a rough river for him, and a great one for us to restore some confidence after losing a big pot in the previous hand. I'm still a little upstuck. The cure for that, and really every negative emotion, is aces. Sometimes you have to double check just to make sure they're real. Onto the gun +1 opens to 30. That's a cool amount that it won't be for long. I 3-bet to 120. The preflop raiser isn't holding a hand quite as good as mine. It's strong enough to stick around with though. He calls. We're heads up. The flop is King 8 Deuce Rainbow. It's the quintessential dry flop. There are no draws out there whatsoever. In this instance, I'm not worried about any particular card coming on the turn, so I down bet to 100. Even that's probably a little bit too much. Under the gun +1 is not about that board. He folds, we take down one last pot before racking up a nice win. What a session. Ran good when we needed to, right away with the pocket queens hand, got it in against the flush draw on the over. Luckily, we won that one. That was almost a 3K pot. We were up 1,600 within the first half hour or so. And then lost to a boat, got in most of the money bad. That's how we do it, apparently. But then ended up winning almost $800 over 3 hours today. The game wasn't so good at the end, so took off. Good day. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I just want to say thanks to everybody who's been watching over the years. It's been a lot of fun for me to document this period of my life, and I've made a ton of new friends and a ton of new memories. It's been a blast. If you made it this far, please hit the like and subscribe buttons because it helps out the channel a lot. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comments section. I'm happy to get back to you. I imagine not many people have made it this far, but my mom has for sure, and I'm sorry that I'm so pale, but it's winter time. What do you expect? All right, guys, happy holidays. Stay safe. I'll see you next time, and good luck at the tables. When there was a 5-10 game that I could play once they call my name, but you don't really care for those stakes, do you? Well, it goes like this: flop 4th and 5th, we're all in, and the flush draw missed. The apropos loses, hallelujah, hallelujah. The deck didn't screw us. Hallelujah. The deck didn't screw us.